93.3 CFMU. Here's the truth you promised. I promised that, I promised. I'm so confused as to who promised what. What I can tell you is that I promised we do have the guest we said we would have. Now, we had some... See, you got me confused, right? Because, like, you said Pao was acceptable, but it's Dre Pao.
I like to say Pao. The Spanish people always say Pao. So, since we're speaking English, I like to go with Pao.
Yeah, it would be like, because I lived in Japan and saying karaoke as karaoke. It'd be like, no.
You could say Dre Pao in Japanese. I don't know.
Dre Pao.
Yeah.
Pretty close. So, Dre, man, welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
Always good to have you on. And I always say that what you do musically is a little outside from what I normally play, but I like to dig into the Hamilton scene and check out what everybody's doing because people forget what a diverse community we have here. It's not just about, like, indie rock. And
I really appreciate it because you know what? You've shown me a lot of love throughout my career, and I love coming to CFMU.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you here, man. So what have you been up to?
Well, I got this new video I just dropped. It's a remix in English and Spanish, and it is called Duele El Corazon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a love song. It's kind of about this, like, I wanted to make the video about this battle about, like, false love kind of thing.
Yeah. And a mutual friend, I guess, is in the video with you, I think.
Yeah, you probably recognize two of them, actually. They were involved in the Turn It On video.
Absolutely.
So it's Joanna Biss and Anthony DiDomenico, yeah.
And they were down here recently talking about Yoga Fest, actually.
Yeah, Yoga Fest, yeah. That's coming up, the next one, actually, in August.
I know, right? They get it done, and they take 3 days off, and bam, they're back on the new project. So,
That's it.
So they're in the video. Now, why that song? Where did you hear it? How did you choose it?
Well, that song is actually originally written by Enrique Iglesias, and I did the remix. I'm really up to date with my Spanish music. His video comes out tomorrow, so I literally, the second that he dropped it on iTunes, I heard it, messaged the studio, Hive Studios in Hamilton, and said, we got to remake this beat, I got to learn these lyrics, and I got to write my own English lyrics. So we did that within 2 days. And
nice. It's funny, because a lot of Spanish performers, people go, whatever happened to them? And like, well, they're doing tons of work, man. They're just doing it for the Spanish community, so you're not hearing it.
Yeah, exactly. And
like,
people forget, Spanish is the second most spoken language in the world.
Exactly.
Some people are like, why are you doing it? I'm like, this massive. There's so many people speaking this language.
Well, it's just we get caught up in our own little bubble. We can't kind of get out of it sometimes, right? So you tend to forget that these things are the case. But you got this, and how'd the video come about exactly? Who'd you work on with that, other than the people we talked about being in it?
Well, yeah, this video was done by a company called One Film Productions. They did the videography, just the filming. I actually produced the whole thing with a company called Hermetica Productions. Okay. But I was mainly involved with a lot of the production.
Cool. So for you now, when you get a track like this, what do you do? Like, what is your hope for the single? What do you want to happen with this tune in terms of getting the world to hear it? How are you getting it out there?
Well, the big thing for me is, again, the main thing I focus on is songwriting. So I'm doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but in front of the public, I like to do these remixes and get attention through doing stuff like YouTube and Facebook. Yeah. And this is actually one of my most successful videos. The goal for me is just to get as many views as possible because views is credibility, man. You never know who's going to see it.
No, that's true. And if something has 20 views, people don't check it out again. But, the more it gets, it's like a snowball effect, right? Mm-hmm. And it's worked out pretty well for you guys so far. Like the whole crew of you guys that I all met at the same time, you're all working separately. Sometimes you're working together. It's this sort of amorphous group of people that moves in and out of each other's orbit sometimes, which is kind of cool. But certainly this has been sort of your MO from the start. But we haven't seen too much in terms of you performing live.
No, I've been in the shadows for performing live. The last time I performed live, I think, I opened for B.O.B.
That's right.
With
you were, and I think you came down here.
110, and that was a while ago. And that's when I was doing a lot of more hip hop hooks, and it was just a different time. But I promise there will be a time where I'll do performing. It's just it's such a process.
Well, it's a different thing, right? And it's funny because sometimes some people come at it from one way. They come at it, that's their first thing is getting into performing, and then they hit the studio, and then you're the example of somebody else who comes from the other direction completely, right? So
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you talk with so many artists and different people in the industry, and so many people will be like, oh, you know what, you're doing it wrong. You should be going this way, or you should be going that way. And it's like, there's no real blueprint on how to do this business. It's
no,
just,
exactly.
You got to feel it out, and you got to feel what's inside.
Yeah, there's no wrong at all. That would just be like, and I mean, the proof is that every once in a while somebody breaks through, and you're like, wow, where'd they even come from? So whatever they did worked. You know what I mean? Like, it happens all the time, and it happens to Hamilton all the time. You just be like, they're from here. That dude's from here. Like, how'd that even happen? Who's this person? You know, it's wild. And then you find out that 2 million people downloaded this guy's record. You're like, I never even heard of him.
Yeah, that's the thing. It seems like it's like he blew up overnight,
but not at all, right?
It's like this has been grinding for a while.
Yeah, like if you have something that hits in Canada, and you know we're all expecting you will, right? Mm-hmm. And then like people would say, "What's this guy?" And I'm like, "Well, I've been having him on the show for 3 years now. Well, 2 technically, but still, like people just don't know where things come from." So.
Yeah, it's a process, man, for sure.
Absolutely. So what else have you been up to? What newsworthy items you got to tell us about?
Speaking of actually people who are just in the background, I got to hang out with Skylar Gray about a couple of weeks back.
How'd that happen?
So I have a mutual friend who's good friends with somebody on the Skylar Gray team, and this guy gave me a call. He's like, "Hey, Dre, I know you're a big supporter of Skylar Gray. This is actually the second time I've met Skylar."
Nice.
But yeah, so he said, "Why don't you come down and hang out before the show, see the gig?" And I was like, "Where do I sign on?" Like, absolutely.
Nice. That's not a bad thing. So how was it?
It was cool, man. You know, I'm really inspired. Like, for me, that's one of the best songwriters of our time, and just to be involved with somebody who wrote songs like "Love the Way You Lie," "I'm Coming Home," and "I Need a Doctor." Worked with Eminem. I'm just like,
yeah, exactly. It's not exactly small names happening, right? It's obviously pretty big names.
I was trying to keep the fanboy inside of me, just like trying to calm down and keep it cool.
I love when that happens, right? I always figure if I was to meet someone who had that kind of a status, I mean, it's one thing to shake their hand and say, "Hey, nice to meet you," but it's another thing if you're kind of hanging with them a bit. Like, I don't know how cool I would be. Because I've interviewed some big names, but that's different. Because you're asking questions. Everyone's playing the role, the role of interviewer, interviewee. But I don't know how that breaks down when you're just hanging backstage.
Yeah,
having
that's
a drink.
Thing. Like, you don't really want to just go off and start interviewing them. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
exactly,
you're just kind of hanging out. You're having a coffee, and just like, yeah.
I always like to think that if I met someone like that I would totally not discuss what they do at all. Like, I'd just be going, "So, craft services, huh? What do you think? This is pretty good coffee for a commissary, don't you think?" And just kind of stick with that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So
I was just more talking about the tour. You know what I mean? How's tour life? Because she was going to Montreal the next day, and it's like, you got to travel. Like, you must be dead. Like, kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's kind of like legitimate questions. You're not digging into weird reporter guy territory. You're just asking, so how's life going?
Yeah.
And your life happens to be touring. So, so what's happening on the horizon? I mean, we got the single. You're working the single. You finished the video. You've already got something in the works. Like, I haven't known you to be pretty much just like, well, I got nothing now for 6 weeks.
Well, the last time I talked to you, I had said that I finished the project with producer wanted to say this.
Yeah.
And I thought I was finished, but I went back to the stuff and I was like, this could be better. So we're actually still finishing up that project. I'm hoping that's going to be done in the next month. And on the side, I have a project coming up. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about it.
Oh, one of them projects. I gotcha.
But basically, what I can say is it's for the city. It's the most I'm going to be giving back to the city and getting as many people involved. 100% I'm going to get you involved.
Nice.
And, it's me just trying to get involved with the city and bring people together who are kind of doing what I'm doing.
Cool. That sounds good. Well, let's check out the single, man. Thanks for coming down to the station today. I appreciate it when you were here live.
I really
anytime.
Appreciate it.
And we are going to hear this song, and it's Duele El Corazon.
Duele El Corazon.
Was I even close?
That was perfect.
Okay, cool. So I'll try to remember to say the song that way, but your name the English talking way. So Dre Pao is here with us, and Duele El Corazon is the track that we're going to hear now. This is 93.3 CFMU. Thanks again, man.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.